All right, what is going on, Amazon sellers? Welcome back to the weekly live news and Q&A show for you people. I'm Chris Grant, along with my obstreperous co-host Chris Rasick. Please do not confuse that with obstetrician. They are very different things. Today, we'll chat about a few pieces of news that should be of interest to you as Amazon sellers, and we'll be taking your questions about anything relating to Amazon, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, or wholesale. Chris, Miguel, hey, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Before we dive into this week's show, I read something. It was either yesterday or this morning that I thought I would share, and it kind of relates to a conversation that you and I had about being friends with your past self and your future self. And I read this little blurb. It was actually, of all places, it was from Tumblr. And it said, when people talk about traveling to the past, they worry about radically changing the present by doing something small. But barely anyone in the present really thinks they can radically change the future by doing something small now. I was like, daggone, that's deep.
It is. And what a great quote. I think I saw that too somewhere. Maybe it was Tumblr or was it Sean Puri?
That was Sean Puri. That was in his 5 Things Tuesday or whatever he does.
Yeah, like what an incredible insight, and it's absolutely true. Like how hypocritical of people. And I mean, not that anybody's, like don't mess things up. I mean, it's kind of like a movie trope more than anything else, but
right.
But it's kind of like the logic when we think of time travel. It's like the smallest thing can send massive shockwaves, have a butterfly effect on everything in the future. And if that's true, if we've accepted that, the smallest changes that you make right now can absolutely have massive impacts towards your future self, the future version of what you end up accomplishing. So we also talked about, remember the no zero days. That's that kind of got resurfaced. It's based on an old Reddit thread. If anyone's not familiar, and this was written as it was a piece of advice. It was a response to somebody had posted something about their depression. And it was kind of like they were staying in bed all day, just couldn't get the motivation. They were severely depressed. And this person took the time to write out this big, long message. And it was centered around no zero days. And it basically said, just rack up a series of no zero days. Just go. And what that means is just anything, just do one thing, even if it's just one thing, and you go back to bed after. That's not zero. Do one thing every single day and then watch those pile up. And the concept was, after a time, once you get a string of no zero days, you'll realize what you accomplished. And what a great concept. It's a great thread. I'm glad it resurfaced, because that meant that's probably the only way that I find it, because I don't spend any time on Reddit. But it's and it goes along with so many things that we read. The James Clear, just 1% better. I mean, it's a sibling to that advice. It's just great. Like I love the whole concept.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna end up going I think deep into a podcast on those topics, because they're really just too good. And I don't think enough people talk about them in the Amazon space. There's a lot of, let's hustle, bro, and let's scale to the moon as quickly as possible. But that's not realistic for most people. When you got to do a 9-to-5 and this is your side hustle, but if you're willing to do it for 3 or 4 years and just do it consistently, you'll be absolutely amazed where you'll be, with 2 hours a day.
And tell me that's not great advice for those people that use education as procrastination. The people
Mm-hmm.
who buy all these courses, spend all this money, but they aren't quite ready, and maybe one more course before I get started. That is such great advice for them. Just start racking up no zero days. Just do a little bit, do one thing each day, and over time, you'll find that you're off and running, and you'll probably be kicking yourself that you didn't start doing it sooner. So
Absolutely. Now, speaking of side hustles and all that, before we dive in, I do need to share with you guys the sponsor this week. The sponsor this week is Tactical Arbitrage. And if you're selling on Amazon as a side hustle, it's something you do in addition to your 9 to 5. Tactical Arbitrage can actually be one of those tools that makes your life a heck of a lot easier. And I'm going to give you a real tactical example today. For example, Walgreens is having a buy two, get one free on their store branded products. Now, they've also got a 15% off coupon code for pickup in store. You might be able to stack that with a discount gift card. I can't remember if you can buy online for pickup in store and pay in store. I'd have to go double check that. But if you can do that, you could stack another discount on top of that. But I used Tactical Arbitrage to run through that particular sale for the store branded products. And I used Tactical Arbitrage to stack all those discounts automatically. And they found a bunch of matches on Amazon for me. Now, the next thing I can do is I can make those orders for pickup. I can pick them up on the way home. I can make myself a little circle of stores to order from. I can prep them, pack them, and ship them off to Amazon while you watch Amazon Prime at night. And then you can replicate this across other stores that offer Chris's favorite, BOPUS, or buy online, pick up in store, and be able to take advantage of the speed of retail arbitrage and the convenience of online arbitrage, which something I like to call hybrid arbitrage, without having to source these stores manually, either in person or online. Now, you still should source those kind of sales manually, but you can do this with software and cut down on a lot of your time. So if you want to be able to try Tactical Arbitrage to do something like this, head over to cleartheshelf.com/tactical. Get yourself a 10-day free trial with code ClearTheShelf, and give it a shot. It works. I did it just today. I did not go out and pick anything up, but I ran those scans just to see how many hits I could come up with, and it was quite a few. So now let's get to the news of the day. This one, I'll be honest with you, it was a little bit of a slow week. We're just coming off Prime Day week and all of the other sales that have gone on. We are in earnings week, so there's all of that. But honestly, that stuff is pretty boring. And so it's been a little bit of a slow week. And sorry, Ryan, have I updated Tactical Arbitrage Academy yet? Yes, Tactical Arbitrage Academy has been updated for 2024. But this week, Mattel has received an acquisition offer. And when I read the name of who is reaching out to acquire them, I was very surprised. It is a private equity firm called L. Catterton, and they are backed by what's known as LVMH, or Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. And yes, Moet is the right way to say that. I looked it up. If anyone thinks it's pronounced Moet, like you're French, you are wrong. But LVMH, which, if you guys don't know, that is run by Bernard Arnault, one of the richest men in the world, and that's who's thinking of trying to buy it, which seems to be way outside their norm. So very, very weird. Now, if this happens, I'm just curious: are the kids going to be asking for like mini Louis Vuitton purses for their dolls, and are people going to be popping Barbie Moet in the club? I'm curious what comes out of that.
We'll finally get the Louis Vuitton print Barbie car, and yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
could see that going. But you know what? This is why would they be interested in Mattel, right? Because now this, like luxury brands, um, it's another week, so it's time to name drop Scott Galloway. But he explained how luxury goods and luxury companies are probably the easiest way to rack up wealth. I mean, it's not you can't get your start there. You know, you're not likely to start out of your garage or anything. But you know, the model these are luxury goods are the kings of artificial scarcity, right? Like the example in the talk that I watched was he used Hermes, if I said that right. Um, yeah, I don't know. Looks like Hermes, pronounced Hermes. So if you're still shaking your head over the Moet, you know, you can we could walk it back with Hermes. So, but you know, basically, these bags only cost, you know, a couple $100 to make, right? But if you walk into an Hermes store and you go, I'll take that one, yeah, the red one on the top shelf, and they go, oh, I'm sorry, sir, that's a 3-year waiting list for that one. You know, you're able to purchase these, and they give you like starter bags that you can purchase, right? So there's, but they could make as many as they want, and what that does and how that equates to the business side is, oh, are the numbers, are the earnings not looking good as we're getting ready to report our earnings? Okay, well, produce a few more bags. They could literally control, they have their thumb on the pulse of their earnings because they only produce as many as they want, right? So how does that translate to toys? Does that mean do these become more exclusive? You know, do they go high end with the collectors, which we've talked about that. There's data that says that the ages are skewing older as far as the people that spend money on toys. So it seems like, and I in my head I kind of went, okay, that's revenge travel. As that winds down, I can't spend so much on travel. Let me get some cool stuff for my man cave or you know, she shed, or you know, whatever. Yes, yeah, whatever it may be. So maybe that's the way to save money, but still buy, you know, leisure items.
Yeah,
You know,
that was exactly the thought that was coming to my mind. I read another little piece that there are a lot of luxury brands that are considering going down market to be able to cater toward the people who are maybe higher middle income rather than just the one percenters. And maybe this is that foray into that market for Louis. You know, like you said, we are going to have the Louis Vuitton print on the Barbie dolls, or maybe there is a Barbie that comes in a Louis dress with a Louis handbag. And sure, I may not go spend $5,000 on a Louis trunk, but I'm okay spending $250 on this Barbie because it makes me feel good. I can collect it. You know, it's an investment. You know, that kind of thing. I don't know, but that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. Well, we know there's definitely a market for those special edition the Barbies with the Day of the Dead, right? Don't they do those every single year? And
yeah,
those are actually good to resell. So maybe there is something there.
It could be. So the next piece I came across is we are a nation of side hustlers. And this one's going to be the longest piece because this one is the one I found most interesting. But according to a study done by Bankrate, more than 1/3 or 36% of US adults earn extra money beyond their main source of income through a side hustle. And this is actually from Bankrate's Side Hustles survey. Now, there were just over 2,000 participants. I think it was like 2,600 and some. But more than 1 in 3 of these side hustlers use the income to pay for regular living expenses like rent and groceries. And 32% of side hustlers think they will always need that work to make ends meet. But the other cool thing is side hustles are bringing in more and more money every single year. They said that the average side hustler says that they make $891 on average per month in extra income, aside from their main source of income, which is up from $810 in 2023. Most side hustlers that they talked to started after 2022, 52% of them to be exact. And then they were evenly split on how they spent their money. 37% use at least some of their side hustle income for discretionary spending. 36% use at least some of it to pay for regular living expenses. 31% save at least some of it, and 20% use it to pay down debt. Now, they also broke down the age gaps or the side hustle penetration by generation. Gen Zers, or those who are 18 to 27, were at 48% have a side hustle. Millennials were at 44% have a side hustle. Gen X at 33%, and baby boomers at 23%. But the other thing that was interesting is the people with less time, or parents of young children, are more likely to have a side hustle than childless adults and those with adult children. A parent or guardian of any child younger than 18, it was 45%. Not a parent or guardian, 36%. And a parent or guardian of any children 18 or over was at 28%. Now, we talked about this just a second ago. The younger generation is more likely to have a side hustle, 48% for Gen Z, and they also report larger payouts. But millennial side hustlers are the ones who are bringing in the most bag, an average of $1,129 per month in extra income. Gen Z is right behind them at $958, Gen X at $751, and baby boomers at $561 per month. Furthermore, more than a quarter of these side hustlers, about 28% of them, make more than $500 a month. Let's see, 21% of Gen Z side hustlers make more than 500, 34% of millennials, 29% of Gen X, and 26% of baby boomers. Men also tend to make more than women. Men with a side hustle make $1,034 on average, compared to $735 for women. Now, I'm not going to go into why that might be. That's an argument for another time or place. But I thought it was fascinating. We've got a ton of people doing side hustles these days. And I just wonder, how much larger can it get? Or have we kind of hit peak capacity for side hustles?
Yeah. Well, first, the gender numbers. I mean, apparently, selling pictures of your feet is either not quite as lucrative as I was told, or even more disturbing, there are more men's feet on OnlyFans than I realized. I'm not sure which way that goes.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure I want to see that study.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to know the answer. Guys, there's a lot of different ways you can go with this. I mean, this is quite a story. I feel bad. Like the baby boomers, that's ages 60 to 78 is what the study said. 23% of them reported having a side hustle, and that kind of makes me sad. That's because I feel like, God.
But should it make you? I'm wondering. The one thing they didn't get to here is, are these side hustles really required? And I know they allude to it that X percentage of them say they absolutely need it. But how many of those baby boomers maybe just want something a little extra to do, or it's kind of a hobby to them? That's something I was curious about.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to believe that, I'm worried about whatever the percentage is. I'm worried about the boomers, 60 to 78-year-olds that have to, have a side hustle because they have to. I'd also be curious, like on an overarching question is, I'd love to see these numbers compared to what I would assume is at least a little bit of a decline in traditional second jobs. Is this, did this replace, just putting in, because when I was delivering pizzas, there was an older lady. I think she retired, and she was delivering on the side, just enough to not take a bite from her Social Security. So I wonder how much. I wonder if this has displaced the second job market. I would expect to see at least a slight decline in those numbers. So that's kind of a lateral move. It's just kind of a getting side income through, assuming side hustle is more, kind of digital, kind of internet money and Uber and gig economy overall. So I'd love to see that comparison, because I think that would kind of tell, that would give us some details on these numbers. The younger kids making more, that doesn't surprise me at all, because they're the ones that are going to know how to do it. It's going to be technology that it just comes naturally to them, because it's a natural progression from things that they use every day. My mom does Instacart on the side as her side hustle, retirement side hustle. And honestly, she's not going to watch this. So I'll be honest, I am shocked that she figured out how to navigate through taking the batch and buying the stuff and taking it all the way to the doorstep. I didn't give her enough credit, but she got through it and she likes it. So but that makes sense, that skews younger as far as the numbers or the money.
Yeah. I found this fascinating. One of the things that I took away from this, okay, is I think that a lot of times, and I've gotten a little bit of blowback on this in the past, is I've made threads and like, hey, if you want a side hustle and you've got $1,000 in your savings account, like, here's how you can get started. And people get upset with that, thinking that I'm alluding to you're going to grow $1 million business with $1,000 investment, which I'm not. I never say that. But life-changing money, okay, is a lot less than what people think. Yes, yeah, I want to manifest $1 million a year business too. And I want to, do all these things, and I want to grow this big business. But most people who need to get started into a side hustle, they don't need that much more. They just need to make ends meet, or they just need to move into a bigger apartment, or have some money to fix their car if it breaks down. And I think we need to be a little bit more empathetic to those people, rather than just trying to be like, oh well, if you're not going to grow $1 million business, then what are you even doing on Amazon?
Right. Because the default setting is, if you're talking about Amazon, too many people think we're talking about millions and buying a Lambo and all the hustle bro prizes at the end of that game. And that's we've started throwing in the words of how to build $1 million store. Like we've had episodes on it, and we've talked to $1 million sellers. That's the first time that we're really talking about that. The bulk of our content on the podcast is, a sustainable, meaningful income. It's not FU money. Like, we're not, that's not what we're trying to, so you don't, be careful where your defaults are set, on who you're listening to. It's because if you go in thinking we're hustle bros, that's not what we're talking about. We're pragmatic. We're trying to, the people who are doing this, either you want to leave the rat, you don't have to leave the rat race with a $10 million store. It doesn't take that. Like we're trying to give real advice to people that are in the trenches and need the help, not not people with, a $250,000 plum payment coming up because, you went gung ho because you listened to somebody, with a profile picture on a sailboat.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but one, I enjoy doing the interviews with the people who are absolutely crushing it. Two things can be true at once. We can look up to people who have just, crushed in business and learn from them, and also realize that, okay, that's not my goal. Although I can learn from their mistakes and I can, see here's the path. But the other thing is, part of the reason we've got to do some of those episodes is because those are what get clicks. And if we don't go toward the clicks on occasion, then we don't help anybody. Which
Right.
is it's this very difficult path that we've got to walk.
It is. But like, look at it this way. Like, you'll hear us, constantly throwing out Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, sometimes both, whatever session you're listening to us. And I follow their advice. We absorb their wisdom because we look up to them. But I don't need 3 billion in investments. I don't need, or whatever Buffett has, I don't need to match their numbers to win. Like, if I get, a tenth, I'll learn how to do cartwheels and I'll go do them in the front yard. Like, that's, you don't have to match what you're viewing. Somebody who is very successful, you're interested in the path that they took. And the steps that you can incorporate into what you're doing. It doesn't mean if we interview $100 million, Jassim doing $100 million, I just, give me a cool 22, 25 million, and I'll be happy. I won't feel bad about myself too much,
Yeah, exactly. All right. So this next piece, I specifically found this piece because I've seen a fair amount of people making fun of sellers selling back to school items like Crayola. Now, it's true. A lot of those listings have absolutely tanked, and they will and they do because they're low hanging fruit type of listings. But I think there's a little something to learn here. Now, according to Deloitte, by the end of July, so in just a couple of days, parents expect to already have spent 66% of their back to school budget. That is up from 59% last year. Now, parents this year estimate that they're going to spend $586 per child. That is slightly down from the $597 it was last year. And it's going to add up to about $31.3 billion, which is about $600 million less than was spent last year. Now, I've got to add on to this just a little bit because this doesn't include any back to college spending. That was just back to grade school and high school spending. Back to college spending is estimated to be $89 billion this year. And now the shopping season's about the same as back to school. And most of the products like calculators, backpacks, clothing, and shoes have a lot of crossover. Unfortunately, not a lot of college students buy crayons unless you go to college in Ann Arbor. Now, here's where the learning comes in. So I want you to sharpen those crayons a little bit, okay? 44% of back to school shopping will still be done in August, all right? So this gives some time for those of you who are willing to hold out a little bit longer, and you should be able to see prices go up and kind of be the last one out and make some money. Now, yes, it may hurt cash flow a little bit. Your cash to cash cycle might be a little bit longer, although it won't be red like some folks who are selling right now, okay? But selling at a loss doesn't pay the bills, all right? Now, there's also something else to think about. You can hold too long because, the back to school season will end and you will see a dip in the sales velocity, which can then make prices dip again if there is too much supply. Okay, so it's this very kind of difficult balance that you've got to figure out. But the cool thing is we've got all the data. Okay, we can make data-driven decisions rather than fear-based decisions. So I went and I looked at several crayon listings. The velocity on many of these crayon listings does not significantly drop off until late August. Then, on most of the listings that I looked at, there seemed to be another surge in demand around the middle of September. I think the reason for this is that it seems that in the South, kids go back to school earlier. And it seems that in the northern states, kids go back to school a little bit later, and so that made total sense to me once I saw that. I wasn't expecting it. I went in there just with open eyes to try to find whatever data I could, but that's what I found. And I found this across multiple listings. Now, I don't want anyone to think that I'm telling you should go source the 99-cent crayons at Target right now to sell in September, but you should be looking at past performance to determine what is likely to occur this year and then make a decision for your inventory based on your business and cash flow requirements rather than what the crowd may be doing or saying. Okay. I think Warren Buffett's got a good quote about this kind of thing. Be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. And you can often be in the right direction where everyone else is not. So,
yeah, there's, and this is the same thing that we've brought up last few weeks. Mostly most of the time we're talking about Nike, and people are talking down and selling Nike socks is the novice move. And there's all these elitist sellers on social media that, are like, oh, how can I, and they'll attach selling Nike socks to everything. It's the same thing, right? It's just, there are more voices talking about Amazon FBA. And then you just have these contrarian voices that decide that I've heard this term, I've heard back to school too often, so I'm going to zag when everyone apparently begins to zig, or too many people are zigging, right? So, and that's whatever. That's a bit trollish, to talk down to people. Put it this way, like back to school is just another season. Are you not going to sell Valentine's Day candy, and Valentine's Day stuff? I mean, it's obvious, to anyone paying attention to a calendar that sells on Amazon. Are you not going to sell Easter candy? I can't tell you how much I've made on jelly beans, in the past. So it's all the same thing. It's, you have to filter out the noise, because it's people who are salty that a couple of their own listings probably tanked, or they had a bad experience last year and decided not to do back to school and focus on other things, that have an overall negative view on back to school. So they look down at anybody still participating in the season. But there's certainly nothing wrong with taking advantage. And unless you have selective ASINs that you went in on back to school and you got a bad draw, overall everyone's probably doing okay on back to school, because it is an event. You read the numbers off on how much money is being spent. Not all of that is selling for negative ROI from third-party sellers.
Yep, absolutely. You mentioned you got to filter out the noise. Fortunately, there's for those of you who are here, you guys have found the signal through the noise. So that's what our goal is anyway. All right, let's answer some questions here, and then we'll do an ASIN review. I've only got one this week. So Austin, could you explain how you determine whether an item with multiple variations is a good buy or not? So I don't have an example in front of me that I can give you that has, 10 or 15 or even 50 different variations. But there are a couple of things that you should look for in a variation. Number one, you want to look for movement in the number of sellers. Is the number of sellers going up and down? That's a pretty good indicator that the item is selling. Okay. The next thing is you want to see the ratings and the reviews going up and to the right for the most part. Can be steady. I don't necessarily want to see ratings or reviews, go from 1 to 500. That can be a little bit of an issue, but if they're steadily climbing and you've got a nice little stair step going, that is also a pretty good indicator. I use the 1% rule. So for every one review, that's probably somewhere around 100 sales on a product. People they don't leave reviews very often. And that is a very loose rule. Okay. Use that as a guideline, not gospel. All right. Outside of that, the other thing and this doesn't really talk about sales velocity, but make sure that the price history is pretty solid. You don't want to hop on a variation that looks incredibly profitable. All the other metrics are going up and to the right in the right direction, but right now it's $90 when historically it sells for $47. You're gonna be in for a hard time. Now, one of the other things that a lot of people don't talk about is you're also going to want to look at the age of the variation. Okay. Because if you hop onto a listing where the parent variation or the parent listing is, let's say, 1,000 days old, but one of the variations is only 30 days old and it has 2 reviews and maybe 3 or 5 ratings, that variation may be selling the lights out. It just has not had enough time to move up in the rankings in the variation viewer on Keepa. So that's another thing to look into.
Yep. And Amazon provided units sold over the last 30 days. While you're in that variation view and while you're over looking at the age of each variation, make sure you scroll all the way over to see because each variation will have its own badge if Amazon has marked it. You'll see some variations where they're not, they may be, they're ranked 9th out of 10 variations as far as the number of ratings, because that's how I have it sorted, yours, but you know what I mean. So it looks like it's the 9th best selling based on ratings volume, assuming everything is same age. But if you scroll over, there may have been a price dip or something, or if it's not quite as old, you'll see that may be selling 50 or 100 plus units over the last 30 days. And the ones above it aren't quite the same velocity. So make sure you use that new data that Amazon provides. That's been very, very helpful. I'm buying variations that I would have passed just based on my criteria before. So
and they're selling.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They're good buys.
Eric, at what point is a VA worth it? I have one now, but after doing some A to A, I've managed to find products that have gained more profit than some of the items she has sourced. So this one, the way you ask this is very interesting, because chances are you're always going to be better than your VA, especially if you actively source on a regular basis. Now, are there times when you hire somebody who will be better than you? Yes, absolutely. It's going to happen. However, it's a lot less rare. And it seems to me in the Amazon community that a lot of people are looking for hires at a inexpensive rate in terms of American income. And we're paying fair to people in other countries. So I want to point that out just for anybody who's like, oh, you guys are abusing people in other countries. That's not true. We're paying fair market value. But they want people who are going to be better than them at running a business that they've been running and learning for months or even years. That is not likely going to happen. Okay. So my rule of thumb is if I can get somebody who is 60 to 70% as good as I am, and I can either multiply the amount of work that I'm doing, or I can focus on higher leverage opportunities while they bring me the other items, I think that's okay. You know, um, in a business, employees are meant to be profit centers. Okay. So, and in tech companies, they'll look at what is the revenue per employee. And I think that's a pretty good metric for especially sourcing virtual assistants. If you're paying them, let's just say $1,000 a month for easy math, and your revenue for that virtual assistant is, let's say, $40,000 or $50,000, and you're doing let's just say a 10% margin to make the math easy. Well, that's $5,000 in profit from a person you're paying $1,000. That's $4,000 in profit after you pay them. Uh, now, now the business gets really easy. It just becomes a math problem. How many virtual assistants can I find that will match what this one is doing, and I can just scale to infinity. I mean, capital, as long as you have the capital available to you, But I think we try to overthink it, and we want these absolute rock stars that we pay $5 an hour, and I think we need to start looking at it a different way. As if they're profitable, if they're doing a good job, you're doing a couple of things. One, you're giving someone employment, which is good. It's good for them. It's good for their family. It's good for their self-worth. It's good on many levels. They're making you money, you're helping them make money, and you're giving them a good quality of life. I really think that is what we should be doing, not saying, hey, these people aren't making me 50 grand a month in profit, I need to let them go because I'm better at this than they are. That's not how you build a business, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I'm not sure you sourcing A to A versus I don't know what their sourcing methods are, but I mean, is that really apples to apples? And unless there's limitations on capital or whatnot, like that's not a bad combination. You have a VA sourcing whatever their method is, and then you're over there, pulling out A to A. If you have the capital to do both, that's not bad. Because I think of it this way. My VAs are, they'll make me bang my head, and it's kind of like talking to children a little bit because of the language barrier and whatnot, and they'll do things that you told them not to do after so often, and you got to kind of rein them in, but that's called managing people. So they are, they're a small percentage of the skill that I have, but even so, I take it this way, just tactical arbitrage, for example. At any given time, I have 10,000 results sitting in my account, in my reverse search folder. Think about the amount of time it would take you to get through 10,000 TA results. And I have 2 VAs that constantly review those 10,000, and then I do new searches and I replenish it, and that's just kind of the cycle they go through. And they take those 10,000 and they put them all on a spreadsheet after they review them, and they give me what they think are good buys. So then my job is just to go through what they provided me, in over a month's time, and they'll do some manual on top of it and Google shopping and whatnot. They have their own methods outside of that once they get those TA results. But I mean, the spreadsheet at the end of a month is whittled down to, I don't know, say 400 or 500 items, with the Amazon ASIN, with the source that they found, or multiple if they found it at a couple different stores. And that's what I have to go through, so they can filter 10,000 down to 500. And yeah, they're not all good. They don't even all match, but think of how much time that saved me from having to go through the 10,000 myself. I would never get through that many in a month. Because I have my other methods that I'm doing while they're working at the same time. So, that kind of mitigates the fact that maybe they aren't as skilled as you wish they were. And then the cherry on top is, again, back to those managing people. If they're not as good as you want them to be, you're not only their manager, you're the trainer too. You know, I wonder how often, you know, we revisit their training methods, you know, and I wonder how much people are trying to make their VAs more skilled through offering regular training.
Yeah.
So
yeah, when I was selling insurance, that I mean, every couple of years, I had to go through mandatory training, and that was on top of the optional training courses that we had available to us through the different carriers, and even we even hired our own trainers to come into our agency and teach things on sales and things like that. It's if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So if we're reading business books and we're listening to business podcasts and things like that, there should be some way for you to incentivize your, I'm not going to call them VAs, they're your employees. Okay, there should be a way for you to incentivize your employees to do the same and want to become all around better, and better at the job you're having them do. Buy them courses and pay them to go through it. Pay them bonuses if they'll do it on their own time. And something else I was thinking of is, you talked about you're doing you're finding more profit A to A. Well, wait till you really dial that in and you hire a VA and teach them how to do it. And they do well enough that you trust them to buy Amazon to Amazon flips for you. And now you're buying Amazon flips during your daytime, and they're buying Amazon flips during their daytime and catching all those deals that you're sleeping through, or teaching your current employee to do that. And you're going to be moving in the right direction. Okay. What's up, guys? Been selling for a few months now, looking to set up my LLC this week. Is there a place or way that you recommend setting that up? So this is very top of mind. We're setting up a brand new LLC at the moment. And I'll tell you something that I did to make this a little bit easier. Is number one, you can do all of it through your Secretary of State or business department. Every state has a different name for it. You can fill it out, all the paperwork, and send it all in and things like that. One thing that I might suggest you may want to do is you may want to use a registered agent so that you don't have to put your address and your name on the LLC anywhere. And you're essentially going to be able to hide yourself from the public. That's another thing that we did when we set up an LLC, so we could hide behind a veil. Other than that,
there is a bodybuilder seller who has threatened to come visit houses on if you tank the listing that he's on. So that's
right.
I'm not sure if that threat is real, but that's just added to the evidence that you should use one.
Right. It's all very easy to do. Matter of fact, you go and pop in ChatGPT. Hey, what are the steps that I should do to start up a new LLC in X state? And it will list it all out for you, make it nice and super simple, and just follow those directions. But they also typically have the same directions on your Secretary of State website as well. You can use a service if you want to. You could use, you could use LegalZoom. You could use a couple of these other services that are out there, InkFile and so on. There's going to be a little bit of an additional fee, and some people are very anti-fee. Some people, are like, hey, if it makes my life easier, that's great. None of them are incredibly more expensive than filing all the paperwork yourself. They're usually maybe $100 or $150 more than just filing the fee with your state. So you could go that route as well, just in case you need any help or got stuck somewhere. Tampa Bay Picker, is there a way to track FC transfers? Mine has been on the move for 12 days. There is a report. It's the real-time inventory report, I believe, and it should tell you exactly where your inventory is I don't know that it's up to the minute, but it's like at least up to the day. I think it's called the real-time inventory report. Your average billionaire FBA. So I have a question about ROI. Do you think ROI matters less the more capital you have to work with? And do you think ROI for every product is different according to the return rate and velocity? Do I think that ROI matters less the more capital you have? I think the answer here is yes and no, depending on how you're asking. Does ROI matter? Yes, absolutely. Your ROI on your capital invested matters, period. But is it going to be lower, or should you be willing to take a lower ROI at scale? Yes, probably. You may not have a choice. There's only so many things you can buy at 100% ROI, and as you scale, you're going to have to accept a lower ROI. And if you're scaling to the moon, you're probably going to have to accept an even lower ROI. Now, you could make up for that by selling faster turning items. If you choose something that has a 10% ROI and a very solid price, but it's something where your cash on cash cycle is, let's just say every 3 weeks rather than every 45 days. Well, now you've actually doubled your ROI because of the speed at which you can turn that same cash over again. So that's something to think about as well, is the speed of your cash to cash cycle. And some people have advantages that others don't. Like if you have daily payouts, your cash to cash cycle can be, a lot faster than someone who has to wait. And, if you've got the 7-day hold on your payments after it's been shipped and delivered, your cash to cash cycle might be a little bit longer. So you got to figure out what's best for your particular situation. Now, do I think that the ROI for every product should be different based on return rate and velocity? Yes, absolutely. Things like clothing and shoes should have a much higher ROI because you need to know that X percent of your inventory is going to get returned, which there's a report that will tell you, there's a tool that will tell you what the average return rate is for any particular category and subcategory. So, for example, men's running shoes has a lower return rate than women's running shoes. So if I'm going to sell in men's running shoes, I should expect somewhere around a 16 to 18% return rate on the products that I sell. My ROI needs to take that into account, and I need to be able to pay for the fees that returns are going to cost me, because you don't get your fees back, and there's a returns processing fee. And then velocity we talked about. I think that you can accept a lower ROI for higher velocity. And if it's something you're going to have to sit on for 30 days or even 60 days, then I would want a higher ROI because of the opportunity cost of that capital that's going to sit. So hopefully that all makes sense. Chris R. So Jeff says, I'm going to apply to US Bank for a business credit card. I opened a business checking account, put some money aside. Any general tips on what my FICO score profile should look like before applying for a business credit card?
Well, I don't remember how stringent US Bank is. I'm not sure if they're one of the easier ones or the hard ones. Jeffrey, your best bet would be to I would look up like the points guy, TPG as they're called. That's the name of I think it's thepointsguy.com. That's one that I go to frequently. I also use stuff like 10x Travel. They have a business card section. Basically any of the point hacking sites. They will have a business card section, and they usually include a section that tells you where your credit score needs to be, where your credit profile needs to be. And and it's just a simple indication like well, you need a really good score if you're going for the Platinum Amex, or, this one from, I know Capital One is a little bit tougher to get. Chase is a little bit easier as far as like where the FICO scores range. As a general rule, if you're in mid 600s or higher on your personal credit, you're probably in good shape, provided there aren't excess inquiries or any kind of short-term red flags that might throw it up, a recent late payment or something like that. That may put a hitch in the giddy up. But in general, if you're a clean 650, 640, 650 or higher, you'll be in good shape. I am curious, Jeffrey, if you get a chance, let me know how you settled on US Bank. Whether if they have a good cashback rate going right now, because I don't believe US Bank's cards transfer out to like travel partners or something. I think US Bank is primarily for the cashback side, and which, if that's what you're going for, that it could be the right move. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just curious on the decision-making process.
Yeah. Corey, what percentage of your inventory would you both say you sell on average on a daily basis? Also, out of curiosity, how much more in sales are your Novembers? The daily inventory sold, is not something I really track too closely. But here is what I think. I think that if you're selling between 1% and 2% of your inventory per day, you're probably in a pretty healthy position. If you get up to, you're selling like 5% of your inventory every day, you're probably leaving some margin on the table and being a little bit too aggressive in your pricing. It's kind of a balance you need to have there. You absolutely want to sell things as fast as you possibly can, but on the other hand, you don't necessarily want to sacrifice all your margin just for an increased velocity in sales. So, be careful there. As for how much more sales in November, I don't know. You can usually expect a sales volume increase of 3 times, I think, in the last quarter of the year. There's a lot of spending that goes on in the last quarter of the year.
Yeah, I second that. And Corey, it's especially tough if you're scaling, like if you're actively trying to grow, like I wouldn't even know how to calculate the percentage of inventory, because I just want, like Chris said, the balancing act, but it's like, I'm trying to get more inventory in, and I'm trying to get more sales. So it's like, I want to buy as much as I want to be out of capital at the end of the day. And if I didn't get out of my, buy enough capital, I want to see my prep center spreadsheet and my active inventory. I want to be able to look at it at a glance and go, oh shit, I need to get buying. Like it's kind of just like this push and pull between the two. So,
Erica, my account just got deactivated for a Section 3. I'm sorry that happened. Any advice to get it reinstated? I haven't submitted my appeal yet, but would appreciate any advice. So I don't know the reason. Section 3 is a big section. Okay, so I don't know the exact reason that you were suspended, but chances are it has something to do with unsuitable goods or something like that. So the biggest thing that you should do is make sure that you read the email that was sent to you very, very carefully, and make sure that you're giving Amazon exactly what they're asking for. Chances are that's going to be invoices and or receipts. You will have some people that say, don't highlight anything, don't write on anything, just send it to them as is. I disagree. I think that you should highlight the things that are important, either with a highlighter in, like physically, and then scan things in, or use some sort of program like, what do I have? Snagit, to highlight items and call them out, and then make things very neat and in order. Okay. So for example, if you have to put your business documents like a driver's license and articles of incorporation and things like that, stack those all together, put a cover page on it and say business documents. And then after that, if you put all your invoices and receipts together, put those together, put a cover page on those that says invoices and receipts and break them up by ASIN. And then merge all of those PDFs together and send those on in just to make sure that everything is nice and clear. And then be patient because it's probably going to take you multiple submissions until someone figures out that you're sending them what they're asking for. That's going to be your best bet.
And Chris, would you agree in situations like that, there really is no such thing as overkill on documentation that you're sending in?
I would,
packing slips.
I would agree with that. Do what they do from the federal government when someone sues them, and just overload them with paperwork. It's not a bad idea. All right, Mike, doing retail arbitrage and wanting to know how to avoid those placement fees killing my margins. So, one, please make sure that you are including those placement fees in your sourcing. That is a very nice way of saying source better products. Okay. You should be able to just buy products that still make money after those placement fees. But the second thing is don't pay the placement fees. Used Amazon optimized and allow your shipments to go wherever Amazon wants them to go, and instead see if the increased cost of shipping is less money than those inventory placement fees. Figure out which way you should go from there, and then that should inform you going forward whether it's better to pay placement fees or not pay placement fees and pay increased shipping costs. My account was deactivated temporarily because of the Inform Act. I was sent a postcard to verify my address, but have not received it yet. I live in Jamaica. What can I do to speed it up? Unfortunately, nothing that I know of. I don't know how long it takes to mail something to Jamaica. Shouldn't take too awful long. You guys get planes there every day from Florida, so I would imagine that should show up pretty quickly. Let's see here. I've realized my goal is
No, Lex was absolutely right. There are people that are interested in an interview with a $20 million seller because they want to sell 20 million. Yeah, of course, that's that's also the goal too. But it's our point was we're trying to appeal to a wide range of goals.
Giovanni, I've realized my goal is 20K profit per month. That is a lot to me right now, but once I get to it, I want to rein myself in to not pass that because my life doesn't require the time and effort. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. Can I sell the same product on 2 different ASINs, even if it's exactly the same item? Yes, you may. That's no problem at all. There are duplicate listings across the catalog. If you do that, just know that it is possible at any time for Amazon to nuke one of the listings. Not that you would necessarily get in trouble or anything, but they may just pull it down, or they may merge them. So either of those things can happen at any time. What percentage of time do you use managing your existing catalog versus new products? Chris and I were actually talking about this the other day. There's probably, and what I mean, what I am going to say by managing an existing catalog, to me, it means going through old leads, both things that have sold in the past and things that have been on a lead sheet that maybe have not been purchased in the past. The answer is not enough time is spent on those activities. And too much of it is probably spent on just looking for the new stuff all the time. That's where the dopamine, that's where you get the dopamine from. You don't get the dopamine looking through dusty spreadsheets. You get it looking through new products. So, Lonnie, have you validated that 1% rule on the Amazon monthly sold stat? I have done some investigating as to what the average rate of reviews are for online purchases, and that's where that came from. It's actually, the review rate is somewhere around 0.05% or 0.5%. So I'm trying to be a little on the conservative side. Is it always a good idea to avoid the IP claim products on Tactical Arbitrage? I'm using Pro. I don't know where they are getting those IP. I don't know where their IP database comes from. So I cannot say exactly how good it is or where that data is coming from. So I would be looking at Keepa to double check against those IP issues. Mahomey, I've found that in order to make a 10K monthly profit, you need to be spending roughly 30 to 40K. Does that sound loosely correct? That would be what? That's a 25% ROI on average. Yeah, that's doable.
33%.
Yeah, I think that's doable. What do I think about Crayola for back to school? Personally, right now, I don't think the opportunity is there. A lot of those listings have been nuked. That part is true. But who knows? Maybe next year everyone will think that they've been nerfed so hard that they would be profitable next year. We won't know for sure.
What if you found an app?
Yeah.
Sorry. What if you found an outlier? What if there's a Crayola lead and it's not a recent sale, that maybe there's just a delay, but you just found something regular price at a store and the listing looks good? How do you feel about Crayola?
Oh, I mean, I'm never going to turn away money. We don't buy products, we buy data. And so I'm agnostic on products. Crayola is good, Nike's good, Adidas is good, Puma is good. I'm sure that there is something that I'm like morally against selling, but other than that, I don't care what the brand name of the product is.
Right.
Do we go live each Wednesday? Yes, we're on quite a streak. I don't know how many it is, but yeah, we do go live every Wednesday. Do I need a different email to set up an Amazon business account different from my seller email account? I got a promotion on my seller email account on setting up a business account. You can use a different email address. You could set up Sarah plus business at gmail.com or whatever you want it to be. Heck, you could, if you have a Gmail, let's just say you have the Gmail, Sarah Simpson at gmail.com. You could do Sarah Simpson plus A2A at gmail.com and you'd be just fine. Here's the thing. Amazon knows it's you. Whether you use a different email address, a different IP address, whatever, Amazon's going to connect them. It is okay to do Amazon to Amazon flips. I think that sometimes people think we're getting one over on Amazon, and we're not. They know they're a data mining company masked as a retail company.
And Sarah, love the quote on your profile picture.
Oh yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah.
Barbie, how do I avoid that if I live in Florida as the Articles of Incorporation? Do I use an RA? Yes. You're going to want to use a registered agent. Could you only turn capital at 3 weeks through merchant fulfilled? No. Um, it'd be a heck of a lot easier to do it merchant fulfilled. We could turn capital over in 1 day merchant fulfilled. Let's say on our account, for example, we have daily payout. So I could go do retail arbitrage today, grab the products, list them for sale, sell them, hit the ship button, and I could get my payout tomorrow. With express payout, I mean, it'd be a 3-day cash to cash cycle. With FBA, it is going to take longer because you're going to have inbound shipping. And that's really about all you can do. I'm looking to learn more about RA and OA. Do you have any course so I can learn more? I do have a course. I have a couple of courses. Just check out cleartheshelf.com before you go and spend money on a course. Go to cleartheshelf.com. I've got a ton of blogs that are absolutely free. Chris and I have 54 podcasts that are absolutely no cost. So save your money for inventory. Learn through our free information first. And then if you still want a course, shoot me an email and I will be happy to sell you something.
And show up every Wednesday and ask the questions as they pop up to us here.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff says US Bank has like 18-month 0 APR cards. That's why he chose them.
Yeah, that extra 6 months is can be very, very valuable. So good move, Jeffrey. I like it.
Yeah. Eli, what's going on? Eli was our last podcast interview. Absolutely great. People are loving it. The watch time is up significantly over our usual podcasts. And it's doing a great one. We appreciate him being on there. Jeff, for new sellers trying to find many products, would you recommend to do reverse sourcing over looking for deals on sites? I do like reverse sourcing. I mean, it is one of my favorites. You throw up against the wall, throw things against the wall, and see what sticks. But I'd probably split my time between the two. And I'm not sure if you're using software, if you're doing everything manually. I'm not sure, what your tech stack is. So it's kind of a tough question to answer. For me, I would throw in, 100,000 ASINs into Tactical Arbitrage, let it do the reverse sourcing, and then I might go find some sales and do some manual sourcing on those while the scans run, and then go through the results from Tactical Arbitrage while setting up another reverse sourcing scan. That's what I would do.
Yeah. And the great thing, I don't know if it's one over the other. I mean, that's kind of worded like I'm going to focus all my time on one and not spend time doing the other. A little of both, or a lot of one and at least a little of the other. But you mentioned for new sellers. We're specifically talking to new sellers. Reverse sourcing has a great benefit because it's another storefront that decided that was a good purchase. Now, you of course, you don't know the criteria that store is using, nor the buy cost. However, that there was a buy cost. There was a point in time where another seller said, this is good, this is a go, and they pulled the trigger on a purchase. So there's a little bit of peer proof in the reverse sourcing method. So that is an advantage, I think.
Sarah, do you guys plan on doing another Q4 lead group for 2024? We are having that conversation at the moment. Easton, how do you get daily payouts? I have an old account. My account is like 11 years old, and that they had daily payouts when I opened up my Amazon seller account. Thoughts on Walmart as a velocity marketplace? There is velocity on Walmart. It's not going to be as good as what Amazon is. We know that in the US, Amazon sells around 220 some $1 billion a year just on the US marketplace. And right, and 68% of that is coming for. Or wait, is that how much? I can't remember if that's the total number or if that's just the third-party sellers. But Walmart's marketplace sales are going to be around 10 billion this year. Either way, the velocity on Amazon's much, much greater. Why do some OA people say tactical arbitrage doesn't work as well as it used to? Because they were upset about getting throttled with minutes, and that upset has not gone away, even though that throttle has been pulled back. It's that spurned lover that just never recovers, unfortunately. And hopefully over time that hurt will go away. But I agree with Flamingo. I actually think that the matches are getting better, with their updates to their algorithm and things like that. So,
yeah, they're actively working on it. So, yeah, you got to filter out some sour grapes for sure. Hey, before we end the news segment, there is breaking news, which does actually apply to us. Andrew Marchand is reporting that the NBA has officially inked a new 11-year, $77 billion worth of deals with ESPN, NBC, and Amazon. And Fantastic. They rejected TNT's right to match. So yeah, it's bittersweet. This is good news and bad news. Because TNT was, last I heard, TNT was going to match Amazon's bid. They were going to try to get back what Amazon was going for. And it looks like the NBA has rejected TNT's right to match. So they're not even listening to the offer. And he updated it. It says TNT does plan on suing to try to match it. But as of right now, Amazon Prime will include broadcast NBA games, which is definitely a positive. That also means the end of inside the NBA potentially. So we lose one of the only worthwhile sports shows left.
Right. I would go and see what Charles Barkley has to say on social media, but I already know it's terrible, is what he would say. Terrible. Yeah. So, Chris, I've got a bit of a confession to make. I've been seeing a therapist, and I had a conversation with her this week. It was about my crippling fear of tsunamis. And she asked me the question, how bad is that fear? And I told her, and I was honest, it comes in waves.
Hey, you were just telling me about the 12-episode chimpanzee documentary that you watched. Mm-hmm. So I started looking. I didn't have a lot of time, but I was looking for it to try to set it up. I couldn't find the chimpanzee one, but I saw a beaver documentary. Have you seen that one?
I have not caught that one.
Hands down, best damn show on TV.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. All right, guys. We are going to skip the ASIN review this week. We both have families that we need to get back to. Make sure to like and subscribe if you know that those kids going back to school in Ann Arbor are going to be eating a lot of paste this year. And we will see you guys next Wednesday.